Hey now, welcome to Refreshing Thoughts. I am your host, Chris Fresh, and this is a show where I talk about toys or pop culture or life or anything that sort of grabs my interest, really. You can see my eyes frantically dashing around because StreamYard uses Wi-Fi, and I can't remember where it shows me how my Wi-Fi connection looks. What a start! Speaking of great starts, thank you to the Shine Worldwide, or the Shine as I know them, who provide our awesome intro track, and that is Heads Are Gonna Roll, and you can find them on Spotify, YouTube Music, where all good music is found, and on your socials. So go do that. I wasn't sure what I was going to talk about today. I've talked about my recent trip to the USA, and then something came my way that I had to talk about, and that is Playmates Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. When I was a kid, I would sort of say Ninja Turtles were the last gasp of childhood toy love for this child of the 80s. I was born in 1979. And what I mean by that is I would come to, I sort of always like toys, but we all go through that phase, maybe at around 11 or 12, some younger, some older, where, we move on from that part of our life, and be it music or sport or whatever our hormones are telling us in terms of attraction with human beings. We move on perhaps from certain elements of our childhood, and toys are certainly something many people have told the story that they left behind. And I thought that I would talk a little bit about Ninja Turtles. It it hit so big in the last gasp of the 80s. It was huge. Like grade 5 and 6 for me were all Ninja Turtles. And I can distinctively remember my father was a South Australian, but I'm Victorian. And we would go visit his family in South Australia. They lived in a town, some of them lived in a town called Tail and Bend, and somewhere in Adelaide. And I would always get a little bit of money for my trip. And the night before, Dad was obviously grabbing a couple of things before we made the drive across. And I walked past, and there was this end cap, as you would know it now. And it was pegs and a cage, and it was Ninja Turtles product. But the turtles themselves weren't there. It was, I can remember Splinter, maybe April, but the bad guys. And I wanted to get one. Fever hit me. And I can remember Dad saying, don't go buying anything. We're about to go on a trip, do something there. But I couldn't resist. And I bought myself a Bebop, and would set off my lifelong love affair with Bebop and Rocksteady. And I was just in awe of this toy. And I remember, because kids don't know, I remember the artwork on the card. I was like, why are they drawn like that? Because it didn't look like the cartoon. It's more like the comic book depictions of the turtles, which I would later on go to know. But sort of comic books really weren't in my orbit at that age. But cartoons definitely were. But yeah, I was so excited. And that set off a Turtles fever for me that would probably, that and WWF Hasbro's would be the end of my childhood love of toys. I would, in my teens, be into the Toy Biz X-Men action figures because I loved the cartoon, and even Spider-Man to go along with that. And then, of course, like most, Powers of the Force 2, but Star Wars figures is where being a nerd became a loud and proud thing. We just didn't know what to call it. But it was like, no, we're not letting go of this, and we're hanging on to it. So Ninja Turtles have always been a big part of who I am. I like talking about what makes me who I am, and it sounds like a million properties make me who I am. But you know, a large part of the personality of Chris Fresh is professional wrestling. And to the point I went on and worked in professional wrestling and still do. And Wrestle Rock coming up August 22nd at the Corner Hotel. Come see me in the kilt. It's a good time. But the I feel like I should share the socials for Wrestle Rock. There it is at Wrestle Rock. You can find it there. You can find, I can't even tell you, there weren't great images from the last show, but there have been some great photos of the action that we do. And while I'm here, Renegades of Wrestling, which is another promotion that I am the booker for. I perform on Wrestle Rock. I'm behind the scenes at both, but predominantly behind the scenes at Renegades of Wrestling. Go support your local wrestling promotions. But so wrestling, I, I love wrestling, but my relationship with it is almost contentious in a way because it's work. It's not that I can go back and watch like Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior, the Ultimate Challenge, or I can watch something of Bret Hart's, or watch ECW from '95 or '96, and yeah, I get that excitement and that fan feeling. But it's just a different form of nostalgia for me, being so closely tied to it. Where things like Star Wars, Masters of the Universe, Ghostbusters, Ninja Turtles, Voltron, Mask, GI Joe, Transformers, Thundercats, all these things haven't been corrupted for me. Star Wars almost did. I haven't been corrupted for me, and they make me feel good. And that's why I do this. I like talking about it. It makes me feel happy. And yeah, I have so many fond memories of collecting the Ninja Turtles. I remember how excited I was to get Usagi Yojimbo and how cool I thought Casey Jones was. And I didn't have a lot of the vehicles because they were really expensive, but the figures I actually had quite a fair few of. But like many, I probably dropped off, at a certain point. Like, I loved the movie, and I even love Secret of the Ooze, but by the time Turtles 3 came out, I can remember going with my nephew, who was maybe 5 at the time, and hoping to have a bit of a connection as a teenager, going, "Oh, this will be cool, we'll go check out the new Ninja Turtles movie," and it was no good. Turtles in Time, it was just like, oh, that's why I've left this behind. It sort of reinforced that. It was like, "Oh, let's go watch Wayne's World or something." Um, but yeah, I do love the Turtles. I formed a gang. By gang, it's the lamest gang ever. But I hung out with twins that were Greek, Angelo and Photius, and a half Indian, half Fijian boy called Craig. And I was the one Aussie at a very rough bogan school that hung out with multicultural people. And we formed a gang called TWT, the Way of the Tiger. We thought it was sounding cool. We were doing karate. I was raised with martial arts because my dad was a black belt in jiu-jitsu from his time in the military. So I was into it got me into buying Black Belt magazine and watching martial arts movies. I loved Best of the Best, Bloodsport, Kickboxer, No Retreat, No Surrender. Never really got into your Michael Dudikoff's American Ninja, but like all of this is sort of tied into this Ninja Turtles fever. We made our own weapons, which are incredibly dangerous, but we got a wicket stump from cricket and sawed the point off, sawed it in half, got a bit of chain, a nail in each one. Bang, you had nunchuckers. You took off the head off the broom. You had a bow. Didn't have a sword, probably for the best. Didn't have size, but I can still twirl a bow through my hands. That's how much I loved being a turtle. Excuse me. I need a bit of Red Bull on a cold Saturday morning. That's why I'm in a puffer jacket. I remember at the Plains Video, which is the video store at the West Heidelberg Mall, it was pandemonium because a Ninja Turtle was going to be appearing at the store. And I remember it was the large-headed foam costume turtles. I'm sure you've seen them. I thought it looked really cool. They had the arcade machine there. That arcade machine, whew, that was fire, man. Putting your 20 cents in and playing, good times. And I remember like West Holberg's really rough area, and the Westies sort of were grabbing at the poor person dressed up as a Ninja Turtle. And I remember the elbow pad coming off, and I was like, oh my God, like, you know, this poor turtle. But anyway, I love the Ninja Turtles. It's just, they're just fun. You know, I've got to meet Kevin Eastman, which, you know, I didn't want to. I felt weird. I'd never really. I'd met plenty of wrestlers and stuff, but the idea of going to a convention and meeting a celebrity, I don't know why. I've never done it before, but I was involved in a panel at the Supernova, sort of like a Comic Con, a Supernova convention here. I've done a few panels, and it was talking about the influence of pop culture and professional wrestling. I'd love to do another one if anybody wants to have me. It's a good time. And while I was there, it was actually the week before the pandemic hit, and or it was starting to hit, and then everything locked down. And Kevin Eastman was there, and I was toing and throwing, and I just bought a token to get a photo with him. And it was almost overwhelming of how grateful I felt just getting to tell him thank you and getting a photo with him. And Eastman's so cool, and yeah, I'm so happy that I did it. I never really understood. I wasn't sure how I'd feel about just meeting a creator and how weird it would be, because it's not like a performer that you've seen on TV necessarily and stuff. But it was awesome, and Eastman was rad. And you know, I love Peter Laird. I'd love to meet Peter Laird, and I just don't think he's ever going to travel to Australia. You know, he's a bit older, a bit curmudgeonly from what I can tell, but Peter Laird's awesome. And you know, their story is charming. I recommend the Turtle Power documentary if you haven't seen that. It's a really fun time. But yeah, so I love the Turtles. What there's not a shortage of is Ninja Turtle toys. But Nickelodeon, they license the Turtles out to everyone. I'm surprised I don't have an official Turtles license, and I could be the Refreshing Turtles podcast. You know, like everybody's got a Turtles license. NECA famously have done an amazing job of the movie Turtles and of the cartoon Turtles. Super 7 did like jacked up versions of the Playmates Turtles. And it's funny, when I was a kid, I always wanted my toys to look like the cartoon on screen and would be frustrated when they didn't. The weird thing with that is, as I'm an adult, I'm actually nostalgic for toys that looked like the toys. And it's just funny how that comes around. Like there's something cool. Like I've got the cartoon series of the Turtles. I've got the Filmation Master of the Universe. Like I do like them, but there's something like Master of the Universe classics, which are like souped up versions of the toys, to me are the best versions of He-Man figures. And I feel like Super 7 did a really good job of bringing the Playmates Turtles to the modern world. And they did such a good job that I think they got themselves in trouble. Like, luckily, Rat King sort of snuck out. But, you know, that line sort of died, and we could get into the woes of poor Super 7 at another time. But Playmates have been very hit and miss on how they've gone with Turtles. Like, when they release figures from current properties, they do an awesome job of it. But some of their reissues and stuff, and they attempted their own versions of classic Turtles years ago and stuff, and they missed the mark, in my opinion. And it's interesting because they're the master license holder, I believe, for Turtles toys and stuff, but they themselves have struggled. And then, you know, there was talk that they were going to do remastered versions of the classic Turtles. Now, you don't need me to explain to you what a classic turtle looks like, but for those who don't, this is a vintage 1988. I always double check that I haven't got it wrong, because there's been so many reissues of the Turtles. It's a hard head version, not a soft head version, but this is a vintage 1988 Leonardo. Raf's my boy, but Leo is probably 1A. And Michelangelo is 1A. And I even like Donatello. I just love the turtles. If anybody has the giant vintage Leonardo, even if it's got no belt and no weapons, can you please help me? Like, I've got 2 Donatellos and I didn't realize it, and I feel like such an idiot. And it's like the cabinet of shame. I can't find one at a decent price. I did find one in America, but it was in box. I was like, well, I don't want to spend that money. If you have the vintage giant Leonardo, doesn't need the belt, doesn't need the weapons, help me, please. Anyway, this is the vintage Leo. So, it's funny. They're they're not giantly tall figures, but they're wide and stocky figures, and I love them. They can be a bit of a bitch to stand at times, but they're such cool figures. Instant memories come to me. If you want to see awesome Turtles collections, Davey Damage from Dave's Video Graveyard and Radical Rewind Cinema Club has an awesome collection. Ben Sachs from the Toy Power podcast has an awesome collection, and of course, Parko Frank from they all do. Trent does too. Scotty doesn't know what he's talking about, but they've all got awesome Ninja Turtles collections. And you should go check out their socials. But these toys mean a lot to me. I can remember going to a mobile petrol station and getting the little cars and the bootleg little clip-ons, and going to Bundoora Market and seeing Teenage Mutant Hero Turtle bootlegs and stuff. Like, there's so many fond memories. So Playmates announced they were going to do sort of bigger, more articulated versions of these turtles. And when they came out, the collectors screamed in horror because they gave them weird bumpy skin. Now, I haven't quite become so StreamYard savvy yet that I can bring up an image of what they look like with the bumpy skin, but a lot of you listen to this, so go Google it, have a look. And it really missed the mark, and it was like, oh, I dodged a bullet there. I don't need to collect that. That's not for me. And I sort of forgot about them. It was like it could have been. It's sort of like it's what could have been. And I started noticing this box set popped up of Remastered Turtles with a Splinter and a Shredder. And I was like, that's weird. They hadn't singly released Splinter and Shredder to my knowledge. And I'm sort of looking, and I've got terrible eyesight, I need glasses. And I'm looking, I'm like, I don't think they've got bumpy skin. And that led me to this. A purchase. I got the box set. I'm going to show it into the camera, and hopefully now they have done an amazing job of packaging up this box set. It is so cool. Like, I will say, I assume Head Start Toys here bought them out. They're a distributor for Playmates here, I assume. Bravo on the display of these turtles. That looks amazing. And it's like, I think I'm going to keep it in box. Then I got thinking, what? I have to open it, don't I? Like, what's the point of having these new turtles without feeling them, seeing them, and having a look at them? It would feel like a mistake. And then I was going to record this episode, and my daughter Steph was taking a photo for the thumbnail. Poor kid. And I looked at the box set again, and it's like, it displays so nice in the box, and then once I open them, I've got to work it into the collection. But what's the point if I can't have a look at them? But then that leads me to this, my orange knife of doom. I think together, we're going to have a look at the Remastered Turtles and see what they say. Now, I am a terrible YouTuber. I'm not a great podcaster either. I've just been doing it a long time. But it would be remiss of me not to give this a go. Now, I've got a bit of tape here. I'm not going to put it back in the box. I can just buy another one if I want to display it in the box. Let's do it. Oh. All right. Okay, here we go. So you can get a bit of a look at them. They're now out of the box. That is exceptional packaging. Bravo to Playmates on this. Like, this is a really cool box set. Like, you know, you've got the sewer display, you've got a ladder. Like, it really is packaged up nicely. I hope these make retail shelves. I got mine from the Gamesman. Now, the Gamesman have been around forever. I used to see their ads in video game magazines back in the day. But they sell collectibles, not just video games. So what we're going to do, who do we start with? I think we start with Leo, because we can do a comparison. Now, excuse me as I do this, because one thing that companies love to do is stick in the figures in the packaging with ties, and I detest it. But I can sort of respect it in this regard, because they're doing it to display well in the packaging. So here we go. We've got Leo. Oh, they've actually put plastic around his katanas. So let me take them out and plastic the katanas. And let's put those weapons in his hand. $15, little man. Put that sword in my hand. And if that sword doesn't go, then you owe me. Oh, wow. So these are really nice. Wow, I really like these turtles. I'm going to show you the sort of differences. It's almost, it is what you would hope. It's a light figure, almost lighter than the vintage turtle, I think. So let's have a look. So we've got ankle articulation that I don't know was necessary. We've got detail on the shell. The swords are colored, unlike the vintage ones. If you remember, they're sort of that browny, orangey sort of color, where these are there. But that is a comparison. That is a really nice figure. I really like this. Wow. Like, look at him. Like, I think I thought I was going to say, we don't need these, and that you don't need these in your collection. And I think I've got some bad news for people. I think maybe Playmates have done it, you know, like he is really nice. Like, let's get the sword out of the hand and put it in his sheath. I always like crossing them. There was something always cool. It's why I display the swords crossed. Yep. Look at that. That is if you're audio listening, you're going to hear a lot of silence, but that is a really nice figure. Like, bravo, Playmates. I don't know about the ankles, but it's not a deal. They really bubble out, don't they? It's not a deal breaker for me. You know, he hasn't forgotten leg day. Look at those calves. But that is a super nice figure. Like, really shocking. There he is again, his vintage friend. I really, really like that. Who's next? I did a bit of Bill Goldberg. Don't tell my hero Bret Hart that I said who's next. He'll go talking about Bill Goldberg. I'm going to go Donnie next. Let's go Belong Weapons. So give me a moment as I snip.
yeah, like really, like maybe not everybody is going to agree with this, but I don't know. I know a lot of friends that collect Ninja Turtles that will go, they don't need these, and I think I disagree. Like I think you do. Right. So here is, oh wow, Donnie. Now, as you know, if you collect the vintage turtles, you know that the turtles were all different colors. The weapons seem to go into the hands really easily. Um, you know, look, it's not like my Mondo turtles. I'm not going crazy, but I'm just saying that this is a really nice, really nice figure. There we go. There's Donnie with his bow staff. Like I know the figures so well that I know how this is going to go, but I am a huge fan of these figures. Like really, really nice. The coloring is nice. I like the head was a bit stiffsky, but it loosens up. Just to show you that. These If I had room on my desk, I think they'd be on my desk. Mecha Godzilla's going, no, that's all right. I can't fit 4 turtles on my desk, but I really like. Wow, I like I like these turtles. Let's go. My party dude next. Got to be careful with this knife. I'm a bit loosey goosey. On Geek Dudes, I've threatened to attack Paul Jones multiple times with this knife, and it's a dangerous thing. Let's get the nunchuckers out. Nunchuckers, cool weapon. Fellow chucker, eh? All right. So here is Michelangelo. Even if he's not your favorite turtle, I don't know anyone who doesn't like Michelangelo. Like I would question your character as a person if you didn't like Mikey. Like he's just a good time, isn't he? Just he sort of. There's Michelangelo there holding 2 nunchaku, and no self-respecting turtles collector doesn't have him holding the nunchuckers like that, and then putting the other set. Oh, it's tight. Fitting it into his belt. Now, it does sit in there. It's just very tight. I could muck around with that. I'm not going to do it on the show and show you a live air breaking because I'm trying to rush that. But that is Michelangelo. I want to sort of bend a little bit with the arms. Sort of, he's threatening. Are you threatening me? I don't know why I sort of where my voice was going with that. Michelangelo is really nice, and here is now, unlike what the soundtrack said, Raphael is not the leader of the group. I believe he is in Eyes of a TMNT. Never really got into that. It was because the 2012 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is probably the best cartoon of the Ninja Turtles. People get angry when I say that, but particularly Ben Sachs, who refuses to watch it. But it really is like they captured the magic of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and brought it to the modern age. Watching it with my kids at the time was fantastic. Like it was a great era. Like there was an awesome Green Lantern cartoon. There was Spectacular Spider-Man. There was the Batman. There was Green Lantern cartoon that was amazing. Like there was some good stuff kicking about at the time.
Here's Raph. I lost the side. No, he hasn't. He's got two of them. Not like that. Yeah, Raph. Like the coloring's good. Like I don't know. Like I think you need them. I'm gonna save the big bad to last. So let's go for Dad. We're gonna go for Master Splinter. Now Master Splinter physically looks the most different from the vintage figure, and I think that was a good idea because the vintage figure was an odd figure to me always. Yeah, it does have the bow and arrow as a homage to Splinter. But if I was going to display Master Splinter, I would use his cane. And look at that. It's got a sword in his cane. So what Splinter's going to do, like if you're a homeless guy or some nefarious character that's going to try attacking this old man in the street, he's going to cut you. But, you know, Splinter feels like to me, he would have a cane. And here is a look at Master Splinter. I'm a tail-up man on your Splinter. I don't know why. But he definitely is an appropriate modern version of Splinter. I'm glad the belts. The vintage belts could always be a bit of a bitch with the way they had to close like that, but there's no such issues with that. That's actually a nice Splinter. Playmates. I don't know if this is the end of the road for them, boys to men style, with these remastered turtles. But if they had have done these single release and done them right the first time, I think it almost could have been their Masters of the Universe Origins. And what a waste that they've got that wrong. Like I think at the right price point and everything, there's a market for this. Like if you got these on the shelves for ideally 25, but you know, maybe we eat it at 30, but you know, I don't think it's unreasonable. Like they're nice, you package them up nice and everything. Like people would buy these. Like these are nice. Like these are nice figures. Like they invoke the feeling of the vintage figures. And yeah, especially the Leo. The Leo is the standout for me. And not just because I pulled out the vintage Leo coincidentally. And now well, the vintage Shredder, old Tingrin. He was always an odd figure because he didn't have a shirt on. And as a fat kid, I couldn't relate because I wanted a shirt on at all times. But he, trust me, you want me to keep a shirt on now too. I always thought he looked too skinny. He was hunched over. You know, this figure appropriately pays homage to that figure. You know, like they haven't decided, well, we're going to do a cartoon version of the figure. They've gone, we're going to do a souped up version. Now, he's still scrawny. This is how he looks. But look at those eyes. I don't know. That's my... When I was in America and I was eating their food, it was a risky proposition to stand at the toilet and wee. And if I had those eyes, you knew something terrible happened in the back of my pants. But that being said, like I'm being silly, he comes with, you know, modern versions of the Shredder weapons, like that you lose straight away. Like a little ninja star that you're never going to display. His little sharp weapons. Sorry, I'm just trying to be careful that I don't lose them. There's a little ninja star. Now, the vintage turtles used to come with weapon racks. And here's his little sword. That Saxy, I think you need him in your collection, brother. And there's only one way to get him, and that's this multi-pack. But no need. The knees are a bit... But he's not the strongest figure, but it's still I still like it. Like, it's a great homage to the vintage line, in my opinion. Like, this is what Playmates should have done. This should have been their origins. And just to see Shredder, obviously taller than the Turtles, as he should be. I I I'm shocked. I'm glad I opened them. I'm shocked how much I like them. Wait, they are. These are the 4 turtles. I know. Look, I'm not good at this. I'm just giving you a look at them, but they are really, really nice. I cannot fault. I cannot fault them. I can, but for the price, I didn't think the price was unreasonable for the box set for 6 figures. No, I think it's with shipping and stuff, it roughly worked out being about $20 a figure. In the modern age, I don't think that's unreasonable. I'm almost bummed that it's launched like this, because I think people are just going to give it a miss, and people aren't going to want to commit to a set of 6 figures, and everything, where I think cool packaging on the shelves, 25 each Origin style, like if I'm borrowing Origin pricing. I think Playmates could have had their Origins and screwed it. I would not have liked the bumpy skin. Not at all, but I love these. Like, I do. I really like them. I'm shocked, but in a good way. I don't feel like I've blown money or lost money. I'm happy with my purchase, and that's what you should feel. I guess my review is, if you're a Ninja Turtles fan and you love the old toys and you collect Origins, if you love He-Man toys, or I think you got to get them. I think you need them in your collection. Not as good as the Super 7 figures, but you're getting a packet of 6 for about the cost of 1. I think they're good value. I think they're good toys. Yeah, I didn't expect that to go that way. It's good fun. I like it when it works out that way. When you unexpectedly get toys that you like, because it's easy to be cynical. It's easy to go, well, it should be this and should be that, because we're so oversaturated and everything's so expensive, and we're right to question it. But that, to me, is a fun purchase. That's what I want to feel when I open toys. Like, that was rad. I'd say cowabunga, but that's probably lame. But like, that's really awesome. Do you have them? Do you have interest in them? Join the conversation. Click like and subscribe on the video. Engage on Refreshing Thoughts on Instagram or on Facebook. I'd love to hear your thoughts of, do you like these? Do you have the bumpy skin versions and you feel burned? Why wouldn't you get these? Have I convinced you to get them? Are you going to check them out? I want to hear from you. People are great with, they've been great with responding and sharing and everything, and I appreciate it, but I would love to have a discussion. I don't do a Discord or anything because, yes, have some, and Geek Dad Life and Toy Power and everybody, and even Days Video Graveyard, they all have well-established great communities on Discords, and I don't know what more a Refreshing Thoughts / Geek Dudes / Hey, it's the podcast Discord would do. Like, do you need another place to talk where you're already talking to these great communities? But I would love to hear what you think, because I really like it. If you want to help support my channel and my show, because I just got my StreamYard bill and it's really expensive, patreon.com/C/Refreshing Thoughts Podcast /membership, where for $5 Australian a month, you can help me keep the lights on. Because I tell you, I was sweating when, after the dollar conversion and my StreamYard bill came through. but I am having a good time doing this. And I hope you're having a good time watching and listening to me talk about toys or talk about trips or talk about pop culture in general. This is about engaging in passion and touching base with it and not losing touch. And, even doing it weekly, I'm touching passion weekly, and I think that's healthy. Thank you for checking out the show. If you do have the means, I'd love it if you support our Patreon. But if you can't support that, sharing the show on social media, talking about it, leaving comments, and clicking like and subscribe on YouTube really does help get the show out there. I appreciate you checking it out. This has been Refreshing Thoughts. I am Chris Fresh, and I'll speak to you in a little while.